Pardue. Hereby reconvene the Board of Education special meeting in open session at 5:03 p.m. We have a quorum present with all board members in attendance. Please note that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed for public viewing. I would like to welcome the community members in attendance this evening. As a reminder, governing board meetings are a business meeting of the board held in public, and although public participation is encouraged, it is not the public's meeting. It is the duty of the board president and or clerk of the board to maintain an orderly, respectful, and peaceful meeting where all perspectives, voices, and opinions are welcome. Please refrain from speaking while another person has the floor. D1, report action taken in closed session. The board did not take any formal action in closed session. I call on Nancy Young for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, so ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Approval of the agenda calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item D4, special recognition is Dr. Andrews.
Thank you, President Pardue. We're going to recognize two different groups tonight, or some folks, our organization of the Rotary Club of Murrieta, and then also our Special Education Parent Advisory Committee parent leads. City of Murrieta has been postponed because that Lisa DeForest is not able to be here to recognize one of our retirees. So I'll go down to the floor and carry on from there. Thank you. So thanks for those of you who are present here. It's not a big crowd tonight, but we want to recognize the Rotary Club Murrieta. So Jim, would you come on up? So I have a whole stack of certificates for Rotary. We are great partners with Rotary, appreciate all the things our Rotarians do. So we have a certificate here for you, Jim, and you get to make all kinds of jokes about these at your next meeting. He loves telling jokes. So we just have some certificates of appreciation for you and the various board members. But we'd like you to tell the board a little more directly about all the things that Rotary does. Not all the things, because that would take a long time. But let's say, I don't know, a few minutes worth.
Thank you. About 40% of our budget goes to students in the Murrieta community. I have 5 pages of over 40 projects that the Rotary Club does in the community. And the big one is obviously the Field of Honor, where every 5th grader comes through, but it's also our big fundraiser. And that provides funds for us to give scholarships for college-bound students, for vocational students. We have leadership camps for 7th graders and 11th graders. We have what's that? Oh, we have, yeah, teacher grants. We have over $10,000 in teacher grants. We help fund a library expansion to the tune of $10,000. But it's the partnership with the city, the police, the fire, the school district that makes this community a great place to live. I'm going to brag a little bit about some of the staff members. A fellow Rotarian down in Temecula knew of a student here in Murrieta that needed some help financially. And it was for a football camp. He's in 8th grade. He's going to go to 9th grade, and it was very important to him. And his family couldn't do it. So this Rotarian reached out to somebody at the district, who reached out to a counselor at the Warm Springs Middle School and said, hey, this kid needs some money. Well, I'm a big guy and skin in the game. It's like, everybody wants money. Why do you want money? I want a story. And his story was a good one, disadvantaged. And the other thing was the counselor went to bat for him. And so we provided his opportunity to go to this football camp. At Monday's meeting yesterday, we had 2 students that applied for scholarships. On paper, the one gentleman had a 1.0 grade point average, and he wants a scholarship. But when you heard his story, when the counselor stood up and went to bat for him, we found an additional $2,000 to fund those 2 students. So it's that kind of community where the counselors are going to bat for the kids. And if you have a good story, we'll support it. And these are the kids, obviously not the 4.5 that are going to go to the, the elite, but sometimes just that little turn may make a huge change in somebody's life.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. The Rotary does an exceptional job for us, and we are tight in that partnership. As a district, we have a corporate membership, and so we have representatives there every single week and participate and show up to different activities and events and volunteer right alongside. So thank you very much. We're going to take a quick photo if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
Doggy needs to go in front. Such a pretty dog. I know. He's like, I'm going right here.
All right. We want to recognize 2 more folks. These are our, actually, Jana, would you come up and help me with this one? These are 2 of our parent advisors who've been with us for many years on our Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Board of Education, for letting us recognize 2 incredible parents, Ms. Jackie Acosta, if I can ask you to come over here, and Ms. Ashley Lawler. These 2 parents are leaving an incredible impact on our Special Education Parent Advisory Committee and parent community. They have represented special education parents and provided input into the development of our programs, provided feedback and guided us, and held our toes to the fire in all for a combined of 12 years. And they also represented our district at the county level. They're members of the Community Advisory Committee. I cannot thank them enough for everything that they have done. Not a single board meeting that we have held, not a single evening event they have missed, which is such a testament to their dedication and to the education of students with disabilities. So thank you so much for the years of service. I will miss you deeply, and I know you'll be back because you can't help it. Yes, thank you.
That concludes the report.
D5 is public comments, and I'm under the impression we have no public comments today. All right. Moving on to item E, consent calendar. Consent calendar items are voted on collectively as a group upon board member request. Items may be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and individual action. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar items E1 through E3 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. F1, approval of personnel report. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. F2, presentation of local control and accountability plan. Calls on Mrs. Faith Munchnick. Jakes.
You can add that or not. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm a little overwhelmed by the big crowd that came out to hear my LCAP presentation today. But we will proceed anyway. Lots to share with you. What I was mouthing, what I was whispering across the room was, it's a little light reading for you. Enjoy. Okay, thank you, Winston. I appreciate it. Okay, good evening. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to share with you our LCAP for the 25-26 school year. The LCAP is important to our district. It serves as a strategic roadmap, and it aligns funding with student needs, ensuring that our goals, actions, and resources are focused on improving outcomes for all learners. Board members, like you were saying, you have a copy of it, and I will kind of point out certain pieces as we go through the presentation so that you can kind of see where they are. That will help you navigate such a big document. Okay. Just a little background information. I'm just going to read the top kind of quote for you just to give you an overview of what the LCAP is. It's a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, and services and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. So the LCAP provides an opportunity for districts to share their stories of how, what, and why the programs and services are selected to meet their local needs. And the second bullet there points out 3 key functions, and I can assure you these really do apply to how we approach our LCAP in our district. For one, it's a process of strategic planning for the district. Secondly, it requires meaningful engagement of educational partners. And 3, the LCAP assures that there's a level of accountability and compliance as we meet our local needs. As a reminder, the funding formula for LCFF is the funding that we are accounting for in the LCAP, and it's based on the district students count for foster youth, English learners, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So it is our primary responsibility in the LCAP to demonstrate that we are continuing to provide quality services that are principally directed towards those student groups. That's kind of the LCAP language, principally directed. They may help and serve all students, but that is who they need to be directed towards supporting. And here's the fun part where I walk you through it, okay? So you have a copy. You can kind of follow along with me. I just wanted to kind of show you each component, because then I can kind of point out, like, you know, how it's organized. It just helps you understand it. So the first part of the plan includes what we refer to as the BOP, which is the Budget Overview for Parents. It's like really a quick one-pager. It provides the basic budget information. Next, we have the plan to summary section. That provides general information about our district and reflections on our academic progress this year. And then I thought it would have a special, its own section, but it's connected right to it, is the Engaging Educational Partners section. And that kind of shows you what feedback we received as we went out and spoke to our educational partners and how it's informed the LCAP. And I'll speak about that in just a minute a little bit more. Part 2 of the document is really the meat. It includes our 4 goals. I will review each of those overall in just a little bit, but each goal has an explanation, a number of metrics, which are how we measure that goal, an analysis of how we carried it out the year before, and then the key actions within each goal. And so you'll see a tab in your binder for each of the 4 main goals. And then part 3 of the LCAP includes a section called Increased or Improved Services, followed by required descriptions of actions. As a district, and we've discussed this previously, as a district that does not get concentration funds, because of the percentage of our students that are not from the target student groups, we have to really justify that the actions that we've chosen to put into the plan are effective uses of funds that are principally directed, again, to supporting those unduplicated student groups. So this section provides a justification with data and research, as well as metrics for how we'll monitor each action. And then at the end of the plan are just expenditure and action tables, which summarize the plan, and then, of course, the LCAP instructions. So sorry, that's a lot to go over. I hope it kind of just helps you realize, though, how it's broken up and understand it a little bit better. Yeah. Yes, our low socioeconomic, our English learners, and foster youth. Okay, so here are just some considerations, and this is a little bit of a lengthy slide, and then we get going into each of the goals, and it'll go more quickly, but I think it's important to highlight some of these things. So for some highlights, I wanted to point out that we have a lot to be proud of. Like, as I was doing the LCAP this year, all of our data is trending in the right direction. When you look at the dashboard, all but every area, our district is experiencing high or very high performance on almost every measure. So I was really thrilled by being able to reflect on that and see that positive growth. One section of the LCAP that I'd like to bring to your attention, I talked about it before, is that engaging educational partners section. So that is a requirement of the LCAP. It's something that we have to explain how we do and explain how the LCAP has been informed by those conversations. This year, we continue to meet with our parent advisory committees.
Just real quick, the phrase educational partner, just for clarity.
Parents, teachers, staff, everybody, and anybody that is part of our community, even community members.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes we would, in the past, they oftentimes were called as stakeholders or community
yep.
members. There's just a new phrase.
There's always new phrases.
I just want, like, sometimes people think educational partners and we're talking about like a vendor,
Oh, yeah.
which is not who we're talking about.
No,
We're
I
talking
appreciate
about,
that.
No, we're not talking about vendors as a partner.
Yeah.
It's our people who use the services, our
Yeah.
kids and our parents. Okay.
Mostly staff and parents, to be honest. And so we did go to our parent advisories for that, as well as our PTSF advisory, which is Partnership for Thriving Students and Families, that has staff and parents as well. And then also I continue to meet with site councils, and that's just been a really great process for me, because in addition to getting the feedback on the LCAP, I really get an idea of that school and what their individual needs are. So this section of the document really shares the concrete ways that the LCAP was influenced by that feedback that we received. And of course, I didn't write this down, but just thinking off the top of my head, we do a huge survey as well. And so we get a lot of information from our parent survey. This year, this is bullet number 3 on the highlights. One of the big things with funding for you to know is that districts who had unexpended LREBG funds, which is Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, had to include them in our LCAP plan. And so we have done that. And you'll see an overview of how they align and are integrated into the LCAP in the reflection section, if you want to look deeper for that. And I'll point it out throughout the presentation. And then lastly, as you will see as you read the plan, I hope you'll see that our LCAP is very much connected to the annual goals that the board created that we go over in February, and many of the actions align directly to the goals. I just think it's a really healthy system. It shows that all of our goal setting is really aligned and together in one place. A couple quick reminders. Again, our funding level, that we really have to focus on actions for the target student groups. It does create a unique situation. In essence, we have to justify that the things that we're doing are worthwhile in supporting those student groups. A reminder to everybody, this is the second year of a 3-year plan. So a lot of the work this year is reflecting on what we've done so far, how it's working, and thinking about how we might be able to implement things better rather than making big changes this year. And then I also want you to remember that really the LCAP is more than that big old document that Ms. Briggs brought up. I know it's a lot to think about, but it really represents a lot of immense hard work from so many staff members at our sites, in our division. And then the spirit is that we are really engaged in implementing this and really working towards continuous improvement at all times. And again, since we're partway through the plan, really a lot of changes that we might be doing are more implementation, not like big changes where we're changing any of the actions, but we're thinking about, well, that might not be working entirely. Maybe we should shift it this way. So what I'm going to do, and if you have any questions for this lengthy highlights and reminders slide, before I move on, I'll take any questions, and then we'll move on and go into the goals, and I'll explain what each of those are.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So realizing that we're in year 2 of a 3-year plan, and this is quite a very detailed, comprehensive document. At what point do you start working on the next 3-year plan?
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't been in the role long enough to even know that, because this is my 3rd year. So my first year I was just learning the process, and we were finishing that up. And then last year we started this new plan. So I'd say some of it just evolves on the natural. You're starting to realize like what is working and what might need to shift. A lot of our plan is tied to people. So for instance, I'll give you an example, intervention teachers. So we have an intervention teacher at all of our sites. We would need to think pretty early if we were going to change that kind of a model because it would impact the staff that are engaged in it. So I wouldn't say that this plan, to be honest, has shifted too much from the prior plan. A lot of our actions are pretty general too, and they leave room for us to shift in our approach and our implementation of things, if that makes sense. Okay.
I was going to ask the same thing.
Oh, okay. I hope that was clear enough.
Like, you don't have to like completely start over. You're looking at what works, what doesn't work, and tweaking what needs to be tweaked.
I always think whenever you're tying money to people, you have to be really thoughtful, and you're probably not making a lot of quick changes, although there are changes that occur within it. I'll point some out as we move forward, some of the things too that did shift over time. Okay, so our first goal is student learning and achievement. Of course, it's the core of what we do as a district. This goal includes actions to provide certificated staff for smaller class sizes, counseling supports at all grade levels, coordinators who oversee things such as data, curriculum, standards implementation, VAPA, instructional technology, and PLT leads who help facilitate the work of the PLTs.
Are the PLT leads teachers who are getting an extra stipend? Or
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And we just added that this year, and we'll talk about that in a second. The goal also supports our AVID program, our CTE offerings, and general efforts to ensure students are college and career ready. So as you're asking, Ms. Young, we recently added the PLT lead stipends. That was just this past year with our new plan. It's really been an important part of that focus on running PLTs. We've also planned a lot under CTE and college and career readiness actions, including a pilot career exploration class at Dorothy McElhaney that's going to occur this coming year and provide early exposure to high school offerings. So I will say that note that some of our LREBG funds have been added to this goal to support smaller class sizes. Okay. Goal 2 is intervention, which looks at ways to close achievement gaps for our unduplicated students. Key actions in this goal include our elementary intervention teachers, like I used as an example a minute ago, secondary intervention efforts, programs and supports for English learners, as well as long-term English learners, and several programs that are used for intervention in our district. I want to point out the English learner and long-term English learner and why those are so vital. That is a priority group for the funding, as we discussed before, and it continues to be a key area of focus in our district. We are making growth in this area, and I'm proud of it, but we need to stay on that and continue to work on supporting English learners. LREBG funding is captured in this goal as part of both as part of intervention at both the elementary and secondary levels, as well as intervention programs and support. Some highlights of that funding include our before and after school intervention had previously been part of ELOP. Now we're moving it into the LCAP through LREBG. AVID tutors that support all of our math classes, been really impactful. Was funded through one-time funding that we're now using for LREBG, and our summer credit recovery program for high school is under this area.
We get funded for the credit recovery, right, in the summer? Because I know some summer school classes aren't always funded at the high school level, but credit recovery is.
I don't know that, I don't think we are. No, the summer program that we run for high school is out of LCAP right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, there's no additional funding from the state for credit recovery summer programs.
Maybe a long time ago, I think it may have been.
They did, a long time ago. And then long before that, was before Prop 13, there was more like ELOP kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, it's been quite some time.
I just had a question about the AVID tutors. Where are they, like from a college? Or, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are our past students. They come and This came in after COVID, and we all know that math is where some of our students struggle, and we provided professional development to teachers and how to utilize the tutors, and we're going to do that again, just as a reminder, because it's been a couple of years, but they use them in a model of small groups, so kids are working with them individually and helping them problem solve in small groups, and it's one of those things where if you ask teachers and admin, they're like, please don't get rid of that. It's having a big impact in terms of the support and being able to meet individual student needs.
And are they contracted the whole year, or did they start like in October or
whole year?
Okay.
We have our regular AVID tutors that are in our AVID classes or other academic classes, but these are ones that are focused specifically in supporting Math 1.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We also have them in all of our AVID classes. Even Murrieta Canyon Academy has a couple. So we have them there as well. Yeah.
One of the things I would recommend to you, it's something I try to do, is if there's anything in here that you find specifically interesting or you want to see, this is a good way to understand some of the things that we're trying to implement. And if you'd like to observe them, I know that we could arrange for you to do that. But yeah. Of course, kids love to learn from other kids. I mean, there is a connection there that I think is really beneficial. So, okay, goal 3 is professional development, which represents our district's commitment to continuous learning for all, particularly for the staff who work directly with students daily. This goal includes instructional coaches and our induction program, which provides new teachers with support, training, and mentoring. It also enables us to fund our curriculum work teams and our data and assessment programs, both of which are vital to the district's focus on PLCs. They provide infrastructure and data that are needed for our PLTs to function effectively. As we head into next year, our coaches, which, to clarify for everybody, our coaches are at the elementary level. We have 3 full-time coaches. They'll be putting an emphasis on helping our teachers implement the new math curriculum. And additionally, we are continuing to roll out the EduClimber program, which helps our staff look at data at a course level, grade level, and individual student level. It brings all different types of data together and really helps us support kids.
So the instructional coaches are there for everybody as opposed to induction coaching, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, they support the elementary team. I think you met some of them in some of the presentations that we had.
I went to your colloquium too.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I mean, that was for induction, obviously, but.
Induction, we always get a whole, you'll see, one of the things that I do in that parent section of the LCAP is I speak of the level of validation that we get for different things that are in it. Like, do we hear from families and teachers that it's important? The induction program is always one that people are so appreciative of, just that support.
I just had a question. So do secondary teachers get professional development, or because you said it's for elementary? So
Yeah.
Who do they have?
They do. Oftentimes, it's a good question. Oftentimes it's collaboration, and it's within advisories. Chris Shore provides some of it as well, and then our MTSS team provides some too. So there is some. Elementary tends to be heavy. It's a little hard because you are subject specific at secondary, so it's a different type of challenge, and we've played with different models over years.
But it's also like, for example, we have the math institutes, which are for, I think, all teachers.
All math, yep. And I don't want to understate, too, the role of the advisories. I mean, you have CTE teachers coming together to collaborate, you have, within our PLTs, there's a level of collaboration, and so there's kind of like embedded learning within that process.
It's just kind of a different model for elementary and
It
secondary.
is, yeah, always has been that way. It's something we continue to talk about, though. Okay, and goal 4 is engagement and school culture. It encompasses several actions that contribute to supporting our students and families. Actions in goal 4 include practices to support all students, as well as educational partner engagement, which includes student and parent advisory councils. The goal also includes mental health supports, our efforts to address behavior by developing a multi-tiered system of supports at our sites, and our services towards foster youth. And remember, like English learners, targeted group, one of the targeted group is foster youth. So it's really important that we have funding aligned to that. And we definitely have a need with our foster youth when you look at their level of achievement compared to all of our students. And then finally, in this goal, we have the action that addresses attendance, including transportation services. I wanted to point out that in this goal, we've had really good success this year with some new initiatives. Speaking of new things that we added, the MTSS coaches at the elementary have just been so impactful. And the parent liaisons that we continue to pilot have really, we're really learning like what that can do in terms of building connections with parents in a different way than our admin does. So we also look forward to supporting the new family center this year. We do have LCAP funds set aside for a position to assist in running that center when it's ready. It's just been behind in construction, so we're hoping this year that will happen. LREBG funds are included in this goal under MTSS as they support our middle school reset rooms.
Can I ask a question about and maybe Dr. Andrus has to answer this. What's the percentage of our foster youth in the district, and then for our EL students? Do you know? Maybe I'm supposed to know this.
EL,
already.
I know, is 4, maybe 5.
EL is 4,000 students are English learners.
Like a percentage? Do you know?
It's like 4%.
4%. Okay.
Yeah.
And about
Foster is like,
is it lower?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's around 150 or so foster students, 150 total.
Okay.
So it's a very small percentage.
Okay.
Yeah, very different than other neighborhoods in our county.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
We still have them, and they have the same needs.
Yeah.
Also, like for example, because I've worked in districts where we have like 20% English learners and a solid 1% foster youth. That the volume of service gets bigger because there's just so many more of them, and so for example, like at an elementary school, across an entire school, you'll have like 40 or 50 English learners at like an elementary. That's hard to so you don't end up concentrating them into one place for specialized services. They get spread out. And what we're seeing is that, and the principals carefully place them into say I was at Cole Canyon, there was a young student who was new, Spanish speaker, and Mr. Shaw carefully placed them into a teacher who has exceptional reading and language skill. Right? That was a strength of that teacher. And so really carefully made sure that student was in the right class. And then I went to that classroom, and here's a student with an iPad who's trying to follow along, and up at the screen as she's speaking with her voice lift, it's translating into Spanish in a rolling script just on the bottom of the screen. So the student can read and hear English and see it in Spanish and follow along all at the same time. And so those are the types of things we end up doing to support our English learners in these little one-offs. And that's one of the challenges when we don't have very many. We still have to find those strategies that we do for big group, but we just have small.
A lot of newcomers.
more than we used to. We have specific curriculum that that access, yes. And one of the pushes, we've done so much in English in EL instruction lately, but is really making sure they're put into classes that will be more specific to their level of language. That did not used to be the case. So, yeah, there's been a lot more intentionality around EL in the last few years.
Yeah, starting over a year ago in 23, I think, we started having conversations around the need to add English learner to our big goals and directions booklet, just to draw the attention to it. And that's helped us focus our energy on really making sure we're providing the appropriate services. And even one of the activities this year is just to finally get a formal plan developed and do more along that work. So it's come a long way.
And I know I used the term long-term English learner, but that is a student who has spent 6 or more years as an English learner and has not redesignated. And so those are students in middle, usually maybe end of high school, end of elementary into middle and high school. And so there are, that has become an area that even our dashboard is following for accountability. Like, why are these students remaining as English learners? Why aren't we figuring out how to help them learn language acquisition? And so there's lots of pieces to that and why that might happen, but it's by putting attention there, we're learning a lot.
What is the reclassification rate for our ELs when they take their exam? Do you know?
No,
If you
not
don't know,
offhand, but
no,
I
I
can
didn't expect you to know off the top of your head. I
13,
just wanted like a ballpark figure.
I'm going to say it's about 40%
Yeah.
annually.
Oh,
It's a pretty good number. We just have new ones every year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's a pretty good clip.
It's in here.
It's in there somewhere.
We'll go look.
And that's my best memory.
Bill too.
Look. I have a question for you, Faith.
Yes.
So you mentioned the family center, which I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be amazing. There's a certain percentage of LCAP funding that's going to fund that center.
What we are doing is funding a position to help have it open and help kind of run the main functions of it. And
Would that be like a primary responsibility? So are we actually hiring a staff member to be in charge of a parent center?
Exactly.
And then what services provided out of the parent center?
So we're still exploring exactly what it's going to look like, but what we're looking for in somebody is someone, first of all, who takes a lot of initiative, who can really help us think about what the possibilities are. But we really want it to be kind of a resource hub and really being able to pull from our different divisions within our district, help us communicate via email, help us get the word out regarding resources that families can access. And then a big part of it is going to be parent education as well, and helping to bring together different people that can provide education to parents. It's interesting because we've seen it work in other districts. I know you visited one that we did too. We're not sure yet if the standalone, I think it's going to work in some ways, but I think our district it's not in a centralized location. So I also want somebody who's going to be willing to be flexible and be willing to go to a school at an open house or whatever and share out resources. So it's, again, we're kind of building it as we go because it has to be unique to the needs in our city.
Yeah, and I did visit. So two things, kudos to your team. I sat in on your last day of
with
PTSF.
the group, yeah.
Is it PTSF?
Yep.
And it was, you could tell the feedback. They were just, for anybody who hasn't sat in, it was actually really good dialogue. And I think you had alluded to the fact that maybe this was the team or this is the group that would feed into this parent center. My visit to Norco, when I went with the superintendent and Ms. Larson, was, it was a great facility. She's like services, I guess that you would consider them wraparound services for the entire family were there. I mean, it was a pretty amazing facility. The only thing that I kind of hesitated about at that specific facility was that they actually had social workers within their parent center. So my ask in this as we move forward, and I think I've told this to Dr. Andres, is as we move forward with this, since we have Care Solace in place, and we have all of those outside referral agencies, is that it doesn't become a place where students get social work done or whatever that service is provided.
I don't think that's our intention,
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make it clear because when I went there, they actually had set up offices with social care workers within the facility. So that's, I mean, it's not that it was bad, it's not bad, but since the city contracts with Care Solace rather than to provide a service within this parent center, that is my only ask, and I wanted it to be very clear as we proceed with this parent center.
Yep, that's fine. And I don't think that's ever been the intention, so really it's not going to be a coordinator position, but it's going to be somebody who coordinates. And it's really about family engagement. And it's about helping our families be engaged in their children's education and about providing them with resources they need. But I understand where you're going with that.
And they even had which, by the way, they did have this space in there at Norco, which I thought was really great. They had a room, one big room dedicated to brand new clothing. So you think that it's going to be like, used clothing for foster kids or anybody that comes in. They had a whole brand new, so I don't know how they did that deal, but that was amazing.
Yeah, that's something we'll definitely explore too. So, all of that.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Trying to figure out how to best articulate it. So I'm trying to understand attendance is obviously something that's very important to us. It's how we receive a lot of our funding. We're obviously struggling with chronic absenteeism. It's the only metric on the scorecard where we're yellow, right? I'm trying to understand where we have kids that are categorized as dropouts or kids that are suspended or expelled. Do they get counted in the attendance count?
I think so.
They do.
I think so. I need to clarify with Ryan, but it's a good question.
And what about if they get categorized as a dropout, are they still technically on our rolls? Or at what point of a dropout or an expulsion are they no longer counted in our denominator? To me, the like intersection of 4 things on the LCAP seem evident. So like we're not on track with the 2+F decrease by 5%. We're not on track with chronic absenteeism. We're not on track with the middle school dropout rate. We're not on track with the suspension or the expulsion rate. And all 4 of those things seem to be very intertwined. And so, and now understanding that they continue to get counted in our denominator. So not only are they intertwined from a student learning and achievement perspective, from an intervention perspective, but also have an impact on the district fiscally. My question is, as we go into this next year of the LCAP, what are we thinking about adjusting in these areas?
Well, I do want to point out with attendance that while we're not as strong as we should be, we are moving in the right direction and we are seeing progress. One of the pieces of MTSS that I think has been really effective this year has been Amanda Diebert's, our coordinator who oversees attendance and 504s, but she has been embedding her work in MTSS. And so we have built tier 2 teams at each of the sites, and we're working with them to, on a regular basis, look at that data, look at who our students are, and drill down to every student and what their story is. And when we have students that we need to bring families in, bring them in, finding out what the issues are and how we can support them to turn that around. Because we all know, I mean, we look at the numbers and it's a number on a dashboard, right? But behind those numbers, we have kids and they've got stories, and there's families that often have stories or situations that we need to help support with. So I think that work has been really good, and I think that's going to continue to make a difference because this is the first year we've done that. So we won't really see the effect of that until next year's dashboard. One thing to remember about the LCAP is we do tend to function, it tends to lag a little bit in terms of the data, so that's just something to realize too. So I bring that up because I think we're going to see, it's an effort to support attendance, but I think it's going to support in a number of areas that will have an impact on things.
Right, because they're so intertwined.
Absolutely. Attendance is it's such a major metric, if you will, and such a major factor in raising a red flag when students are struggling. And so it's important that we're placing so much effort there.
Yeah. The other question I have, and this might be like a conversation for another day.
Okay.
But and you can tell me that, that's fine. It just strikes me because in the scorecard, it specifically calls out red being English learners at Antelope Hills, Dorothy, McElhaney, and Tovasha. And then Asian students at Monte Vista, African students at Murrieta L, and white students at Real Ranch. It's very specific.
Yeah, let me explain.
But then in our plan, which has a pretty, sizable allocation to it financially, we say that we're directing our actions to Murrieta Canyon Academy.
Yeah.
And so
Let me explain. This is just the accountability situation. And so for our very first LCAP, our first year of our LCAP, which was last year, it was a requirement to put on in here any of our student groups or schools that had student groups that were red in any area. So it was a requirement, like you know how I turn this into the county? Like they would bring it back if I didn't have every single one articulated in there and how we're addressing it somewhere in the LCAP. And this year, when I was redoing it, I asked about that and said, well, we're a whole year later. Now we have different data. And they said, no, because that is the data that we formed the plan on. It needs to remain in there. So it's somewhat misleading because a lot of those metrics have now changed and are different. But we have to continue to speak to those specific red areas, if that makes sense.
So you feel like a degree of confidence that by putting our attention at Murrieta Canyon, that is not ignoring, I can't think of another word, and I know that's not the right word,
Well,
the other schools.
When we speak to it, we have to say that we will be providing attention there. It doesn't mean that we will not be providing it anywhere else. So it's like this, our attendance action is really, we're doing this at every school. We just know that at Murrieta Canyon, there is a higher need to pay attention to attendance, which we knew whether we had the dashboard or not, because these are students that have often struggled with attendance at school anyway. So it's an accountability piece that we have to call it out within the plan. But it doesn't mean that we're not spending the same amount of energy in the other places. Good questions.
So let me just build upon that, because in other places where I've worked, we've had like a focused person. Think of like we talked about the parent center with a parent liaison. We had like dropout recovery or attendance specialists, and their job every day was just go find kids and resolve whatever the problem was. And they would, and I went with them, we did like attendance sweeps, and we would divide up, and we'd go into sometimes some shady places, but we'd find kids who, had moved or something else. There was some sort of an excuse. And so I think to your point about like a narrow focus on those people, yes, we have some kind of broad interventions, but we haven't funded a position like that. And that may be something that we have to really look at, but it comes at a cost. It's an employee that we bring on. We give them a really narrow mission to go out and do dropout recovery for certain populations or certain, whatever these types of criteria that are. I know that our chronic absenteeism rate has been declining at the same rate our attendance rate has been increasing, which has been slight, but it has been positive in all the right directions. So, and it sounds like it's raining and hasn't rained in a while, so.
It also makes me think if and I don't know the details about when one happens or when one doesn't, but if when a student is suspended, they count as absent.
They do.
Then it makes me think that we should really maybe have in-school suspension because they're there and not send them home.
Do we have,
I-
isn't there some sort of, for certain cases?
There are certain things where it's required to send them home, and some of them we might have already tried a couple of times in in-house or an at-school suspension. It's not really working anymore. We need to get more people, in this case, the parents' attention.
But I was going to say, it's a really good point because in addition to affecting attendance, it affects kids. So we know it usually is a last resort or required thing to do because it's going to impact them in all ways. Sorry, Dr. Andrews.
No.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between being suspended outside of school and being absent, and in-school suspension and being present but suspended? Or suspended is suspended? Okay.
So if you're looking at
The present but suspended versus absent and suspended.
but again, both
We have to. We have to, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the detail.
Good questions. Any other ones before I start to wrap up? Okay, and I'm available anytime if, as you're digging into this wonderful plan, you have any questions that come up. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. So just next steps, actually a little bit of past steps. We did submit this plan. There's a fast pass process through the county where before we officially submit it, they will review it for us, and we received their feedback. There were some minor changes, but our draft was strong, and it's already been finalized. That's the copy that you have. It was posted for public review on May 28th, and the public hearing takes place tonight alongside this presentation, and then June 12th, you will come back and hopefully approve it. And like I said, if there's any questions prior to that you want to discuss, just let me know. And thank you. I do want to say just a couple words. It is really important for me to say that I really do believe our LCAP is an authentic document. I can't speak for what it looks like in other districts, but it really does represent and reflect the initiatives, and it really remain like the initiatives that we are doing in our district. It really does reflect that. It remains focused on supporting our students from targeted student groups in, I believe, really meaningful ways. And then as we move forward, we're really committed to it being a living document, so it should evolve. We should be thinking about it. We should be reflecting, collaborating, and being responsive, so we are open to your input too. Yvonne's question about when do you even start planning? I mean, any comment, anytime, we'll start putting that into consideration as we move into when we develop a new 3-year plan. So thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Great job, Faith. Lots of work in it. We can see it.
I have to kind of like close myself in my office for a few weeks, so thank you for
It's a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, public hearing regarding the proposed 2025-26 LCAP, LCAP and local control funding formula budget overview for parents for the fiscal year 2025-26. I hereby open the public hearing at 5:53. Do we have any comments or questions? Hearing none, I hereby close the public hearing at 5:54 p.m. F4, designation of representatives to the California Interscholastic Federation Southern Section, Southwestern League for the 2025-26 school year. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Do we have discussion first? I just had a quick
Let's
question.
get a second. Get a second.
Oh, I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
Oh, so I just had a quick question, Doc. I don't know if you can answer this for me. I meant to reach out. I apologize. The people who are getting nominated for this specific CIF, what is their role when they go into this board or into this space?
I'm going to have Ryan come up and answer that question because he would know better than I do. But they do represent the school. They represent the schools in all these activities. But I think Ryan can answer these questions more specifically.
Is this specifically related to
CIF,
our personnel from our district?
Yeah, so what's their role? So you have a list of 4 or 5 here. What do they do?
Yeah. So to give you kind of a synopsis of what it looks like, I was the previous president of the league.
Okay.
And then Darren Mott has been the longstanding kind of athletic representative from our athletic directors. And so we are a voting member along with the rest of the league, Great Oak, Temecula Valley, and Chaparral. So as a league and athletic directors and principals, whenever there's items that need to be voted upon at CIF, we meet, we discuss them, and then we make decisions in that group that are in the best interest of our league. And then for those past years, myself, Darren, would go to Long Beach, and we would be the voting representation of our league on different items. What I will tell you, that's we are oftentimes not in the majority of things that get voted upon.
Okay.
One of those reasons is that we are a very highly competitive and successful public school league for sports. And we are often in the same criteria or placed in the same area as the private schools that are in Orange County and Long Beach. And so the competitive equity, right, is something that a lot of the teams don't want to necessarily be in the same CIF divisions as our league. And so that's an ever-growing dilemma, something I just brought up to Darren just recently in Ward about kind of just the involvement of our league and their desire to have us have to go even farther to play league opponents, which then brings upon unknown costs. So there's a lot of power in voting. Darren and I will be trying to get even more involved because it can make fiscal impacts as well that everyone else does not care about in terms of the impact to us.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
If you have any questions, let me know, but it is a pretty interesting world.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. And now for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against or opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries 5-0. F5, approval of course-based independent study courses. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. F6, public hearing regarding the proposed Murrieta Valley Unified School District budget for fiscal year 2025-26. I hereby open the public hearing at 5:57 PM. Do we have any comments or questions? Hearing none, I hereby close the public hearing at 5:57 PM. All right. We were going to move to closed session. The board was unable to address all the closed session discussion items within the allocated time at the beginning of the meeting. As a result, we will reconvene in closed session at 5:58 PM. No action will be taken in closed session. As such, there will not be a report out. The board will adjourn the meeting at the conclusion of closed session. This calls for a motion and a second to reconvene in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Let's go.